The Silent Samples has released one of the world's first dynamic music artist apps. Interact to change the path of the song, or simply sit back and let the app provide a dynamic experience for you. Releasing as an app allows the Silent Samples to evolve the songs over time, putting out updates with new instruments, videos, experiences, you name it. Because songs are not recordings. Songs are songs. Songs are songs. Songs are songs.
What's up, Intrepidators? It's your Intrepid Songwriter chronicling my adventures as a songwriter, because seriously, who does that? And I'm here to help you get on the fast track. Today on the show, we have a guest that I met at a recent Chicago Hypebot event, and I was just so impressed and just excited about his music tech and his invention, and you will be too once you see it, because it's awesome. So today we're going to welcome our guest, Matt Fredrickson, to the show. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing great, David. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Great. Well, it's great to have you here.
Thanks.
So we got to get some of the usual questions out of the way.
Sure.
So tell me how long you've been in the music industry.
Well, I mean, if by music industry you mean attempting to get paid to do something, then probably 20 years.
Okay.
I've probably been playing music for 30 years, if you count like the early times when I got my first musical toy and tried to play music on it, but yeah, 20 years of trying to make a dime here and there.
Well, what instruments do you play?
Well, I play guitar chiefly. I have a band called Squint in Austin, Texas. That obviously we don't tour anymore because I'm here in Chicago. But I'm the guitar player of that band. I wrote the songs on guitar. So that's kind of been my chief instrument for the vast majority of those 20 years. But then I also play keys a little bit, and especially more lately now that I'm kind of doing more of my own stuff on top of the Squint stuff. So,
well, now let our viewers have the website for your band so they can check it out.
Oh, sure. It's just squint.com. Okay. SQINT, like squint your eyes, squint.com.
Okay, great. Is your music on iTunes, YouTube, the normal?
Yeah, you can find it. You go down that rabbit hole, you'll find it in all the usual hot stuff. There's a couple videos I think you can get to through the website and all that, and YouTube, things like that.
Cool. Well, I know we'll definitely want to check it out. That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, now let me ask you this question. What do you wish you had known before you started out in the music industry?
That's a very good question. That question's going to have a couple different answers to it, because if I think about it from just the business side of things, I would have liked to have known that pursuing a recording contract was going to become even more of an irrelevant sort of path than it was at the time, or at least a unproductive path to try to take. I mean, you spend a lot of time, I'm a songwriter and performer, which I think is that's a different kind of thing, because then you're kind of trying to make it as an artist on top of your songwriting, which are really different things. But it would have been
very different things.
They are very different. And I think we can get into that, but I think that's a thing that plagues a lot of artists, is not realizing where they are on that spectrum. If they're really songwriters, or they're really performers, or they really want to be both. And I think sometimes people, that's another thing I kind of wish I would have been honest about or known better, was that you can sort of define yourself more narrowly on that spectrum. You don't have to be all things, Some people force themselves to be songwriters when they're really performers, and some people force themselves to be performers when they're really songwriters.
That's
right. And they enjoy performing. But back to your original question, I think I would have liked to known that there wasn't a really good reason for me to be looking so hard for a path to a record deal. That wasn't real. And so that kind of gets to a philosophical part of the business. I would have liked to have known that it was okay for me to just pursue the love of songwriting, and that be my guide to why I was being in a band. I think you get fixated on, when you're both a performer and an artist, I think you get fixated on thinking you have to make it. And artist and a performer. And I think that can draw energy away from your songwriting, which is ironically the best way for you to get successful.
Right. Well, as Americans in particular, we have an all or nothing mentality. So when you think about making it, it's making it big.
Yes.
It's being everywhere and touring and getting your own reality show. That's normally what people mean when they say make it.
Right.
Make a living.
Right.
Fine.
Right. And do you even want that? I mean, if you really are honest with yourself, really want that level of fame, or do you just want to be a songwriter? Do you just want to make a living and playing music? I mean, because that's a different set of targets. If you're famous, you're gonna have to put a ton of your energy into talking to people and networking and a lot of stuff that's not really part of songwriting, and for me, not really enjoyable. I'd rather just sit down and write music. And so I think looking back, I would have liked to have allowed myself to be more of a songwriter before I focused so much attention on making it, quote unquote, as a performer.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And another thing that I always tell people is most people at some point have to choose between career and family if you're in this business.
Absolutely.
And, it's not, there are very few people that can pull it off. Some people do because of the synergy of their lives.
Absolutely.
It works well, but there's a lot of self-denial, a lot of ego swallowing, a lot of forbearing, a lot of forgiving, a lot of understanding.
Yes.
To come along if you make it.
Right.
And you want to try to build a family.
Right.
With all that going on.
Right. It's important to pull back every once in a while and take a higher view of your path. And if it's actually taking you where you want to go. I mean, like you said, I mean, you can be a songwriter and have being a touring performer, that's not going to be as easy. Right. It's just,
Right.
And it's also much easier to have, if you need a day job on top of songwriting, than to have a day job and tour. I mean,
that's the reality for most songwriters. Most songwriters in Nashville have two jobs. And they're writing as much as they can, hoping to get that breakthrough to where the music can become.
These are really talented writers. These are really talented. They're still having good jobs. It's a definite reality. So
right. I mean, because it takes a while, and like you said, a lot of it is networking. Because the supply is, 5,000 times bigger than the demand.
Yes.
So if you put out a cattle call for a song, you'll get 10,000 songs. One.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Okay, cool. So if you could have identified your goal targets more accurately, and then if you could have known how to focus yourself on what you really wanted, as opposed to maybe what you thought you wanted or the expectation. Okay, cool. Really cool.
Yeah, I would have given myself more space to be a songwriter. I think a lot of times you get caught up in things and you just you do all these other things to be a songwriter except write songs. And that's
quotable. That's great.
How does that get you where you want to be? So,
Well, and to me, that's another testimony to introspection, because they tell us that we're too introspective, but no, you need to be introspective. What we do.
Right. Well, that leads to another part of it, which is you need to be authentic. I mean, I think that this may be me talking from a performer's perspective too, but I think that you need to be authentic in your songwriting and not try to be somebody you're not. I think you do yourself a disservice when you do that. And you have to be introspective to do that properly, and you can't, if you're living externally and you're saying, oh, I should write a song more like this artist.
Right.
First of all, that artist has already got that covered.
Right.
And probably doing it better than you're going to do.
Right.
Second of all, why waste your life trying to write songs that aren't authentic, or play instruments that aren't what you feel, So
no, that's fantastic. Now tell me this, then, do you have a vault?
Do you mean a literal vault, or do you mean a performing rights organization vault?
I don't mean either one. I mean, what I mean by a vault is a songwriter's vault, which are songs that you've written, maybe cut, that the world has never seen. Maybe at some point you're going to drop, or maybe some point they were just for you. But they're finished, but they're tucked away somewhere.
I mean, everything I write is so good that I don't. I haven't really ever thought of it as a vault, which is unfortunate in a way, because I think I have a tremendous amount of lost riffs and things out there that I know I really, really liked. But that's another part of being a performer and a songwriter. There's a drive to get the next song to your band.
Right. Oh, right.
And something can hit with you, and if it doesn't hit with the band, I tended to just let those things drift into obscurity and lose them.
Okay.
I didn't keep them, and I have some regrets about that. I mean, I think artists should capture more stuff. I think sometimes we're lazy about getting something captured, or down, because we just think we'll come back to it, in the next hour, and then life happens, and that lick is gone, and it's kind of the mythical best lick you ever wrote, but it does happen. And I think I wish I had a vault, but no, I don't really have a vault.
Well, see, I did a whole video on that about not losing songs.
Yeah.
And then, which I'll probably put on the screen for my viewers now. Also, when I teach people, I talk about how the muse works. And you cannot turn her on and off. She just kind of flies around, does what she does. And so you have to retrain yourself to get a recording device, even if it's just pen and paper, pencil and paper, or these days I use my phone and my pad. So when that hits, I just sing into it, and now I've got it.
Yes.
And I'll dump it somewhere. So then when I want to go back and mine my ideas, because I've discovered what you said is 100% true. In less than 60 minutes, that rhythm and that melody that was so clear, even if you remember it, you don't remember it like it first happened.
No.
Like, wait a minute, that's not it. What was it?
Yeah, and then it drives you crazy. Then you waste a bunch of time you could have been writing something else.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's something I tell all writers, man, you got to retrain. That's part of our songwriter training, is you got to train yourself to capture that stuff when it hits.
Right.
You can't control it. You can't control the flow. So cool. All right. Now, tell me then, what is your favorite part of creating? And you can talk about songs, or you can talk about tech. But just your creative process. What's your favorite part of that?
Well, it's interesting you say songs or tech, because if I think about it that way, the bridge between those things, like writing code and writing songs, is that at the end of it, I have something very personal, even code, that did not exist in the universe before, and now it does. And I was a player in that, and that's a really powerful experience for me. When I rarely have this with code, because I'm not very good yet. But with music, when I know I've got it, when I get goosebumps, and that there really is, it's not like I can go work at a job and ever get goosebumps. You know what I mean? Like, that's not.
I do.
And so when you have those moments, you know that you're in some sort of transcendent state, and it's a place that for me I can only get to writing music and creating music. And so I think that's my favorite part, is when I sort of thrill myself, because I think in life you spend a lot of time chasing something or disappointed in something. You're like, man, I should be better at this, I should be better at that. And if you're letting yourself be real, and occasionally you hit those moments, you can place of self-satisfaction that I don't think you can get I can't get in any other way, I don't think, so.
That's really well said, that transcendent place. And I tend to agree, though, because you can't really look at other areas of life and even begin to approach that kind of feeling. So no, that's really well said.